All right, Evoto's got some new features. We're going to go over them today. You won't want to miss it. And there's one that could potentially change the entire way that I edit in my entire workflow. All right, so I've got several pictures that I've taken from different shoots that I've got pulled up to highlight these new features. So let's dive in and get going. Okay, the first one is smooth hair. So girls' hair can be a huge issue. Anybody that's shot for any amount of time knows that outside girls' hair, that can be a big problem. And it used to be really hard to fix. It's gotten easier over the years, just like everything else, but it's still kind of a thorn in my side. It doesn't always work perfectly, but this is a big step towards fixing it. And this smooths the hair out and they've already had the flyaway option, and this takes it one step further. So let's go in here. It was really windy this day, on the day that we did this shoot, and I knew that it was going to be a challenge, and her hair looked great, but there's only so much you can do with the wind. So let's go down and do stray hair removal first. So we're in the portrait retouching module, just so everybody knows. We've already got a little bit of editing done, not a ton. We kind of got rid of her smile lines and kind of brightened up her eyes and her face a little bit. Nothing crazy. She didn't really need any skin softener or anything like that. So the biggest thing on this one, honestly, is just the hair. So let's go to stray hair removal. Let's just go all the way to the right, see how it does. All right, so there's a little bit of a halo there. I don't think that's a huge issue. I mean, you could always go into Photoshop and fix that if you wanted to. I don't know that anybody's ever going to notice that, honestly. You kind of have to weigh those options whenever you make a fix like that has just like a little giveaway. Is it going to be a big print? Is it going to be something they're going to make large? If it's only going to be shared on social media, then, you probably don't need to take the extra time to fix it, honestly. Me, it's hard for me not to do those things. I'm going to be 100% honest. But in this case, we're zoomed in to, that's 70%. These are large files. I shot these on my A7R5. So they're 60 megapixels. When you zoom out, the only place I really see it, honestly, is just right there by that brick. So I'm not too worried about that. It did a great job. All right, let's go down to smooth hair now. So that got rid of the flyaways on the outside, but now on the inside, there still is, the issue of just wispy hairs kind of going all over the place. So it kind of gives the illusion that the hair may have been fixed in a program like this. Well, this should take care of it. Let's just slide it to the right and see. That did a really nice job. Yeah, I mean, I don't even really know. It's kind of crazy how that worked, because I don't really, right off the bat, I guess just the little highlights on the frizzy hair, it just kind of like toned those down. So I guess, yeah, when you take that down, when you take the tame frizzy hair slider back to the left, you can see it makes it all the lighter areas a little bit darker. Let's try a hair shine enhancement and see what that does, because I have no idea. Okay, so that's not going to work on this one. I've not used that before, so maybe if we tone it down a little bit. Okay, so I see what it's doing. It's taking the areas that are like kind of wavy and the taller parts, I guess, and they're putting a highlight on them. That's interesting. So right there, so it makes it seem less flat. So I guess toned down, that does look pretty good, honestly. So there's before and there's after. Pretty good. Okay. White hair blackening, we probably don't need. Yeah, she definitely doesn't need that. Okay, so that one worked really well. All right. Okay, now we've got an athlete here. We did this we shot this for a different YouTube video, just to show how to dramatically light somebody with a good physique. And so stay tuned for that video. And I don't know if that'll come out before this or not, but if it has, then we'll link it. If not, then stay tuned for it. So this one, we're going to get rid of his tattoos, which I've never actually done that. I deal with a lot of high school seniors, and honestly, some of them have tattoos, but it's never anything they want to take off. So, I don't even know if I've ever taken off a tattoo, honestly. And I feel like that would be pretty challenging, especially one that is this big. So let's go down. Actually, I think we're going to go up. Beard protection, where is it? There it is, tattoos. So you can see at the time that I am doing this video, it's in beta still. So let's go ahead and click that and see what it does. Wow, that's incredible. Let's zoom in. That skin texture is still there completely. Very nice. That's impressive. Got it on his oblique and everything. Huh. It got this. He has a brand there from his fraternity, and that's taking that away too, which I guess looks like there's a pencil there, so you can go in and mask that back out if you want to. Like you could take out that area. Now the one thing it did do is whenever the tattoo's still there, so we had a beauty dish with a grid lighting him, and you can see that it's brighter on his chest, but because of the tattoo, you don't see it. Now, when you take it off, you do. So what we can do is go in and add an adjustment, a radial gradient, and fix that. Okay, so I've actually already added that in. So I've got it right here. So what you would do is you go to your masks, and then you hit the plus, and you hit radial gradient. We've already got one added. So we're going to turn it on there. There you go. Now it's fixed, all right? So basically what that's going to do is just create a feathered edge for a gradient. And you know what? I'm going to take that off and do it over just so you guys can see me do it. So you're just going to grab it from the middle and drag it out like that, just in the area that you want it. In this case, we drop the exposure down, and I usually try highlights and exposure for things like this whenever it's too bright in an area. We want to make sure we get his shoulders too, because that, and this bottom part, like right here. Okay, so like now it kind of looks a little bit dark. Well, actually, I say that it probably doesn't actually. I'm just saying that because I know that was too bright. Okay, all right, now let's go back down. So there's before and there's after. So pretty nice job there. Okay, all right, next picture. Let's move on here. All right, so we've got a picture of a baseball player from my son's team here, and we're gonna go to the color adjustments module now. And go to full image. See, we're on masking before. We want to go to full image. And we used a fog machine with some tube lights in the background. So the way, this is a pretty typical thing that happens whenever you've got haze or fog. Sometimes it can get a little bit too much. So this is what we looked like without any kind of adjustments to the blacks or the contrast. I use the curves a little bit, and the main thing we want to highlight right here is the dehaze slider. All right, so it's just too hazy looking, right? Which is, the point of the fog, but this is a little bit too much because it was in my studio and it just built up. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the black slider, slide it to the left a little bit, and see if that fixes it. And it did a little bit. You don't want to go too far with that. Maybe up the contrast just a hair. Maybe go a little bit more on that. Okay. All right, so you can see that it was pretty underexposed anyway. So there was the image before, and now since we brightened it up, we went up a whole stop in 3/4. So that's definitely helped, but we still need more. Let's go up on the clarity a little bit, maybe. That kind of helps with the contrast a little bit. Now this is going to be the one that really sends it over the top, is the dehaze. Let's go up to like 35, see what it does. Yeah, that really did. That really helped quite a bit. And dehaze, it adds like a little bit of a different color cast to it sometimes too. It's kind of cool the way that it works, I think. Let's go back down on the contrast. See, there we go. Yeah. Now we're getting somewhere. Maybe up. We've got the whites up a little bit. Let's go down to our curves and let's grab the mid-tones just in the middle here of this curve and just drag those up. Just kind of brighten it up a little bit more. There we go. All right, now let's go up more. A lot of times with these sliders, I'll go all the way to the right. Let's just go all the way. That's too much. So you can see his face is getting kind of purplish red looking. You don't want that. That's too much. But now when we pull it back a little bit, that's going to help. There we go. That's good. Now we can actually back off the exposure maybe a little bit too. Okay, that definitely helped. So we did a combination of things there, but the main thing being this dehaze slider. Let's put that back down to 0. So you can see right there the lack of contrast that you see. And then when I press Command Z, it goes back. We had 39. Definitely added quite a bit back into it. Maybe even push the blacks a little bit more to the left there. Okay. All right. Okay, so next thing we're going to highlight is the body blemish removal. So we've got a picture of some dancers here, which these are all teenagers. They have their skin is, they're young, they have good skin, but you can see like there's, nobody's skin is going to look completely smooth. That's not realistic. So what we're going to do is go down. There's a slider for that called body blemish removal. We're going to go back to the portrait retouching module, and then we're going to go, let's go find that and see what we look like here whenever we slide it a little bit. And this is by no means, this was kind of a hard one to find an example for, because I don't really have a lot of pictures, honestly, with people that have body blemishes that are very noticeable. So, you can see like there's like a little cut right there and maybe a bruise. That looks like it might be a birthmark. I don't know if it's a birthmark or a bruise. But, just like kind of uneven skin, maybe like, maybe tan lines where somebody wears shorts, something like that. I don't know. But, this wasn't an easy one to find, really. But I think that this is probably going to help moderately. It's not going to be a huge deal, but it can just give just a little bit, just to, just to kind of take the image over the edge a little bit and make it look a little bit. I never want to make somebody's skin look 100% perfect. So if you can kind of like tiptoe that line a little bit and make it look really, really good without people saying, oh, that's too much. All right, so let's go all the way to the right and see what that does. Okay, so you can see it kind of like, it looks like it evened it out, but you didn't lose any texture. So there was definitely like a little, like that cut right there, like I said, in a bruise on this girl's leg. And I think that definitely, but it doesn't look too smooth now. So that definitely helped. So that's just something you can add in just as a little bit of a finishing touch, right? All right, so let's go to the next picture, which is the same dance studio, a few other girls here, not the same ones. So we've got a couple cuts. I think that she may have had some mosquito bites. So we've got where she was scratching it there on both. Because I remember the mom telling me specifically on this one to fix these. All right, so let's see what happens when we slide it on this one. All right, so you can see it kind of did the same thing. It smoothed out the skin a little bit without really losing a ton of texture. That still looks pretty good and believable and not too perfect, but it didn't get that cut. So I guess this isn't perfect yet. It didn't realize that was a cut, but it did realize that the other leg was a cut for some reason. And you would think that if it got this one, it would get this one because that one's more dramatic, but it sure didn't. And got that bruise down there too. So then I would go in with the healing brush and zoom in by pressing Command plus, and then just, that took care of that really quickly. So just a couple more errors there just to kind of finish it off. All right, there we go. Good. Okay. And then hit OK. All right, so that one, it worked perfectly on the one before. Then on this one, it got part of it, didn't get all of it, but thankfully, there's other tools you can use, not just one. Kind of like in Photoshop, there's a lot of different tools you can use. You got to figure out which one works best for you. Okay, now moving on. Now we've got a studio shot of a doctor. And so I shot him on a seamless piece of paper, and I shot it wide on purpose because I wanted that vial to look a little bit bigger when he was holding it out to distort it so I shot a little bit wider. And the problem with that is then the background shrinks behind the subject. So then you might have, in this case, edge lights in it and the wall. So let's go to the background section here, background adjustment section, and see if we can fix that. So what we want to do is that this distraction removal, that's what we want to see if that's going to work here. So let's go ahead and just click it. And that's very impressive. So I've got it on auto detect there, and then we've got clean backdrop clicked, which that's not really doing a whole lot for this one because it already looks pretty good. If you hit unify lighting, then it makes it all even there, which that's, maybe that's the look that you want. I kind of like the center to be a little bit brighter. So, you can also click color banding removal, which this one doesn't really have that, but sometimes when there's a color, you can see those bands around the image, and that's definitely helpful there. So so you can see a little bit of a shadow here, and I don't know if that's the paper bending and imperfections in the paper or if it's a shadow from him, but I do have a background that you can import in you can import it in your own backgrounds, and I made one with this color for the Thunder Gray. So if I click it, then under the background changer, then it's going to replace that background, but it's going to be the same color, so it's going to match really well. See, so now I've got, it makes it a lot, it's got a higher success rate with that. That like the hair is going to, like, the hair is going to overlay better and the edges of the picture because the background color is the same. So that, you know, it's reflecting back onto the subject. So that's always a challenge, especially with color like green or blue. It's going to like reflect back. So this is gray. Obviously, it's not as big of a deal. But, you know, I always want to set myself up for success as much as I can. So in that case, or in this case, that's, you know, an extra step that you can do. And you can see that the hair, if I zoom in, it did a really nice job. Like that looks like I shot it like that, honestly. So you're losing a little bit of the highlight on his ear there, but that's very minimal in the way they're going to care about that. And you can also go down here and change the opacity too. So you can go down to like 50, so it's not quite as prominent. So then the background shows through a little bit. If it's the same color like this, then you know what? That's actually not going to work. I thought I was being clever there, but you can see the edges of the background right there. So so I guess you don't want to drop the opacity if it's not going to be solid back behind him. So, but you know, you can pick. So honestly, that looks pretty good to me. So I'd probably just leave it like that, really. But you know, you can change the background with the same color if you want to, and if you want to like put that nice clean highlight in the middle, you know, that's just another step that you can add if you want to make it look a little more polished, maybe. Okay, so now let's go to color match. So this is a really interesting feature, and I've actually included this on a video before, but I'm going to show you again because it's pretty cool. So anytime you do any kind of color grading, putting colors in the shadows, highlights, that kind of thing, white balance, that kind of deal, that it adds a different look. And you can go through and make a preset, and then, you know, sometimes it's going to work, sometimes they don't work, depending on the photo. If it's the same, it's similar. So you want to pick a photo that's going to be similar, like as far as like the setting, the lighting, the background, anything like that you can do is going to set you up again for success, and it's going to be more likely to work, right? So in this case, this boxer down here that I shot in San Francisco a couple years ago, that the sky looks very similar to this baseball picture. So I thought that would be a perfect one because it's a very stylized way that I color graded this. I've got red in the shadows, and then just got warm highlights, or it's kind of got like a greenish tint to it. So it's very, 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 very stylized and different than just a normal color adjustment, right? So let's go to reference view here. All right, so we want to take this picture and make it look like this one. You can see that even though that this isn't graded yet, that sky is, it's kind of the same type of clouds, right? Same type of day, like close to sunset. All right, so let's go ahead and click this. So and that's all it is. Like, you know, you've got presets that adjust everything, and sometimes those work and sometimes they don't. It just kind of depends. But if a lot of times this is a faster way to do it. So, you know, trying this, if it'll work, you know, especially if it's a similar photo, then it, you know, there's a good chance it will. You know, you can see it's pretty cool, and it works very, very well. So you can also go in and adjust if you want to, like the amount that you want it to, like you can go less or more or whatever. And then if you click on that little pencil button, then you can do the tone. Like you can lower that a little bit if you want. You can also change the color, like back off a little bit. But in this case, the color is the main part of this, right? So I don't want to really back off that a whole lot because then it doesn't look the same. But that matches pretty darn close. The tone, if anything, is maybe what I would adjust because he looks a little bit, the whites look a little bit too dark for me. It looks a little bit even and kind of like milky looking. So I like the contrast of his photo, and so I'm going to take the tone down a little bit. And then right there, I think that looks pretty darn good. All right, let's go to another one and try a different photo with. So this one, okay, this one has like a sunny sky with a few clouds in it, right? So here's another senior here that we have that's just in the backyard of his house, and it was all blue skies. There was no clouds at all. So that's, again, bright sunny day, middle of the day, blue sky. You're gonna have probably a high success rate with this type of photo because it's gonna match, right? All right, so let's click it and see. All right, and I'm gonna set this as my reference too. Okay, there we go, side by side here. Let's hit the pencil so we can go adjust it. So you can see that now, if we go to 0 on the amount, okay, that's what it looked like before, and then so this has, again, red tones in it, so it's more stylized than just a normal color adjustment. And the blue is kind of got like, it's probably a little bit to the teal side, just a little bit, right? And that I mean, it's very subtle changes. Like you look at this and you don't think there's red in it, but then when you compare it to like that, then you can definitely see it, right? And then again, the tone is, you can see that the shadows that are the darker areas, they match pretty well. I might back off that just a hair just to brighten that up just a little bit. The color, though, now you can see the blue is totally different. That looks more purple now, right? So the color is the most important part, I feel like, on these whenever you use this feature. But again, really, really pleased with the way that looks. So like we could go in and batch those and just sync them, that whole section of photos for this kid's shoot, and it would match if that's what we wanted, if that's what we want it to look like, right? Okay, so let's try. I forgot a minute ago with this dancer photo to try the distraction removal, because we did the body blemish removal, but there was one little piece of equipment down here. I think that was my C stand. So let's hit distraction removal and see if that gets rid of that, and it did. So now, yeah, now we're definitely good to go on this one. Nice clean background. So we just had a couple issues with it, nothing big, but it definitely cleaned that up pretty easy. So, all right, so now let's talk about tethering. So that's really important anytime I'm in the studio, and I've actually started to do it with the iPad wirelessly outside even, because giving the client the iPad to see as you're shooting, it really adds a lot of value, and they can see what you're getting. So then you get an idea, that they, if you're getting what they want or not. That's, they get to see the pictures beforehand, which is, it just adds to their experience. And everybody that I've done it with has absolutely loved it. And so I've done it with Capture One, you can do it with the Sony app, but you can also do it with Evoto. So I've got a video here, the senior that I showed you first with the smooth hair. So this is actually a video of her shoot in the studio, and you can see just real quick whenever it shows the view from that kind of where I was, and then turned around, the camera was going to swing around and show you as I'm shooting, and I'm actually shooting raw. So you can set it to small JPEG, and so like when you can do it to an iPad or wirelessly to the laptop, but the iPad's easier to carry outside, obviously. In the studio, it wouldn't really matter, but you can do small JPEG, so it transfers faster. The problem is then, that's not going to actually be, the real picture that you're going to edit, because it's a 2 megapixel JPEG. But the speed is what's important there. And so that is probably, I think, outside with the client, probably the best way to go, because you're going to go back to the shoot anyway. They can star them and then you can just reference it. But you can shoot raw. That does take longer. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that, but I'd never done it with Evoto till I did this shoot, and I was very, very impressed. So let's just take a look here. So I'm changing the background of that wall to red right there. Okay, so now we're gonna swing around, so you can see how fast they're coming in. And it's not instantaneous as like the small JPEG, but you can see it's pretty quick. It's only a couple, 2 or 3 seconds before they pop up, which is not a big deal at all for a portrait shoot, because I'm not going to be going faster than that anyway. So, and then the advantage to that is you can have it retouched while you're shooting. You can pick the main things that you want it to fix. Like it could be blemish removal, it could be stray hair removal, whatever. And it's going to do it automatically so that they see it. And not only do they see it, but they see it retouched in real time, because Evoto is so awesome with this stuff. And that is huge. I had no idea it was going to be that fast. I'd tried it before with Capture One, and it took forever. I say forever. It took longer than that. Several seconds, but that was pretty quick. So that that makes me want to actually shoot raw to the iPad instead, because then that lessens the time you have to edit afterwards. And if they're starring, if the client has the iPad and they're starring as you shoot, then all you have to do is export them once you're done. So big advantage. So I was very pleased with that. It was a really cool feature. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of the video where I said there was one feature that I thought was going to change the way that I edit, possibly forever. I wouldn't say forever, but at least for the time being. And that is something that I've been waiting for Evoto. I knew it was coming. They didn't tell me, but I had a feeling eventually that they would add a library aspect to this, because that's really the only thing. It isn't a cataloging software. It's just retouching up until this point and editing. And the raw processing is great, but there's no way to catalog your photos, which is a big deal for organization for full-time photographers, especially me. That's why I would never use Evoto just Evoto for my raw processing and just, to store my photos, because there's no catalog. There's no way to organize them. Well, that's changed now. Guess what? They've got it. Okay, so if you go up to the top and go to library, or you can press G, then you see you've got all of your projects over here on the left. So you can make a folder for every shoot that you have. And then you can press G and go to grid mode there, and then there they all are. So I've got individual ones here, but that's from before. But now we've got the ability to catalog. So, and I'm sure it's only going to get better. So like comparing, to my knowledge, I don't think they have a way to compare photos. Like you can hold command and pick two different ones and press N in Lightroom and it'll bring them up side by side. So that's a real benefit when the clients are looking at the photos with you, but from the shoot. But I'm sure that, you know, if you guys are listening, Evoto, that would be a great addition. And then, unless it's already in here and I don't realize it. So the other thing that is a huge deal for me, though, that this doesn't have yet is keyboard shortcuts, because I use them for everything. Like I switched for a little while, for several years, from Lightroom to Capture One. I'm kind of going back to Lightroom a little bit now, but that was the biggest roadblock for me, was the keyboard shortcuts, because I didn't know them in Capture One. So it took me forever, or not forever, but it took me longer. And I was super fast in Lightroom, and I still am, because I use keyboard shortcuts for everything. I also do for Photoshop. Evoto doesn't have as many yet, and I think that is the next step to really push this over the edge for me. And once that happens, and I can go super fast with my editing with a keyboard shortcut for everything, then I mean, there's really no reason to use anything else. So if you guys are listening, that'd be great to add, you know, just to kind of maybe go to Lightroom and Capture One and kind of look at what they do and try to at least mimic the main ones. So yeah. So I will say that G and D, so D for develop and G for library, you know, that's already, looks like they already are doing that. So, but like, for example, when you mouse over, so E for color adjustments. Okay. So, and then portrait retouching is R. So it looks like they have some, but like, let's go to the color adjustment. So like in Lightroom, for example, and in Capture One, you can set it to where plus will raise the exposure, and right, so that's not working. And that's one of the big things. Like you can quickly raise or lower the exposure, or whatever you mouse over in Lightroom, it's going to change to that. That would be a big deal. And maybe there's a way to do it. If there is, then somebody comment below and let me know, because I'm not aware of it. But anyway, all right. Well, those are some cool features. Those are some cool features that they've just updated. So I wanted to share them with you. I think that they all have a lot of value, and I'm excited to see what they're going to keep doing, because this program is moving pretty dang fast with how much it's improving. It hasn't been around that long, and it's already it was killer when it came out. Now it's getting to be pretty impressive. So there's really not a lot that it can't do. So hopefully they keep innovating, and hopefully you guys give it a try. And we also have a code for some free credits down there in the description below if you guys want to check that out too. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. If you did, I'd appreciate, obviously, a like and a subscribe. All my affiliate links down there. If you need anything from Amazon or Westcott's website, please use those. That helps me keep the channel going, because I don't get paid a ton to do this. I make a very little bit from YouTube, but I love making content to help people out. So using those links really helps a whole lot. Make sure you go to matthernandezcreative.com, sign up for the newsletter so you get notifications whenever we release new videos and everything else. That's it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.